From London, England, I'm the Ronin Jase Osei, a warrior with honor, and we are drinking that mode.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinking at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, words are hard. All right, everybody, welcome Drinking at Moe's. Big Mo here. YouTube, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, because the YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass. Where most places you can find your audio podcast too. And you know what? Today, me and my little temporary house guest here, welcome Ronin Jase Osei. Pardon me if I'm mispronouncing the name. I feel bad when I'm butchering that up, but welcome.
Hey, welcome.
All right. So, first thing I like to start off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you finally deciding to make that leap into the business?
Well, as a fan, I watched wrestling when I was younger. I started off with WCW. In England, I didn't have cable growing up, so we used to watch it on national television. So WCW would come on our Channel 3. And then I remember, I was a big fan of Sting, and I was a big fan of the Fabulous Steve Austin, and just seeing, a lot of these guys just do these athletic, larger than life things, and wanting to be that one day. Um, I didn't know that that could even be a possibility. Obviously, looking at the indie wrestling scene, that wasn't something that was televised or something that was heavily advertised, especially growing up. So I didn't even know what went on behind the scenes in the business. And then fast forward to 2018, I had a chance to have my WWE tryout. I'd never wrestled before, and they decided that they wanted to give me a tryout, and they flew me out to Orlando, Florida. It was after that tryout that I caught the wrestling bug, and I said, "Well, you know what? Let's see if I can do this. Maybe make it back to the WWE, or just see where we land." And that's really been the goal and the story ever since. It's been a blessing, especially to have a WWE tryout, because just to even like be considered and have the chance to step into the building. That's many people beg for that, and many people
big.
I was afforded the opportunity and with no experience, so definitely thankful for that. But yeah, I think ever since then it's helped me to, number one, push my body to a different limit. I came here to play college football. I played for Baylor University once upon a year. And then kind of trading on to, like, the martial arts world, and then also the wrestling world, has given me an opportunity to number one, have a creative outlet in a different avenue, but then also to kind of challenge myself, especially at this age.
Oh yeah. And well, yeah, the getting the WWE tryout, especially on the admitted not so much experience in wrestling part, that's huge. That's huge regardless of how much experience you have when you get that opportunity.
Mhm.
And I'm sure the athletic background helps, especially with the martial arts. And okay, I wanted to make sure I heard it right. The university you said you played for?
Yep, Baylor.
Baylor.
Yes, sir.
No kidding. I my team being a little distracting here, but my team, my that's like an hour from me, used to be in the same conference with Baylor,
Texas A&M?
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Okay. Eh,
Yeah, I live right about an hour from Lincoln.
Okay, with the Cornhuskers.
Yep,
Yup.
yep.
Yeah.
We, there's some people that were angry with the season, but I'm like, they did a lot better than anybody thought they would this season. So hey, I'm happy.
I mean, to be fair, when I kind of hear that, especially with college football and even the NFL, I think I love the fans, I respect fans for everything that they kind of talk about and so forth. And obviously, to some degree, we do a lot of what we do for the fans, as well as getting it for you know trying to trying to further our career aspirations and even get a paycheck. But I think what people can't forget is actually how hard it is to win a football game, like how hard it is to win a game. I mean,
Yeah,
even if you're playing against someone who you think is not good, because when you kind of think about it, high school, you're playing against some great people.
yeah.
Then you get to D1 football, like you're whittling it down to like the best of the best in high school. So you got
Yeah.
some great players there, even if they're playing for teams that aren't, necessarily doing well record wise. They still got great players. I mean, you get
Yeah.
to you got the 1%. And so we got the 1%. Like none of these guys are chumps. There's no person on that team where you can say that this is a slouch. This is like the best player
Oh yeah.
football player in the country. And where again, if they're playing for a team that's got like a 1-7 record or any given Sunday, that team can win because this is a person who is a a professional athlete and they're a great athlete. They've been just it was decided that this person was good enough to play in the highest tier of the sport that you can ever think of. So I know when people have their times to get upset, I get it, and it makes
Yeah.
110% sense. But at the same time, it's like get them grace because they are going out there and they are trying their best to they're trying their best to win. And
Yeah.
and to be honest, it's hard to win a game of football. Like it's not easy at all. It really
Oh
isn't.
yeah. I get a laugh out of when people talk about when they're just talking about the game and they're like, "Oh, we did this or we did." I'm like, "You weren't on the dang field." But then there's also the people that criticize the coaches, especially with with Nebraska, where we had a brand new coach
Mhm.
first season, and you know people were criticizing him even within the first couple games. I'm like, you do realize that every coach, when they first come in, they have a couple years of cycling through the old guys players before they even get the ones that they're recruiting to get playing time. So cut them some slack.
It's true, and you have to think to yourself like half of anything is there's the coaching aspect, which is okay, let's teach these guys how to play the game, but then also you have to build that relationship. If you're not building that relationship between the coach and players, where there's a trust relationship, because I always believe that trust will always bring the best out of somebody. Because when you know that you are working for somebody you can trust, when you know that you're playing for someone who is giving their all on 100%, um, you know that you're going to be able to produce your best and you want to produce your best for your person. It's almost like being in a marriage. When you're in a marriage, you get the best out of both worlds because you know that there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of love. And the person on the other side of that marriage is trying to do their best to be as good for you as you are trying to be for them. And you can't build that up in like, when you start dating somebody, you're not exactly your best because you're still getting to know the person. You're still getting to know what they like, what
Yeah,
they don't like. You're getting to know like who they are, and so it's never going to be easy to be the finished product at the
yeah,
beginning. And so
no,
sometimes you have to give people that grace. And I think that might be a societal problem where a lot of us want the instant gratification, where it's like like hey, I feel like I've given what I need in this transaction. Now I need the instant like reward for that. not realizing that sometimes it doesn't work out like that. It doesn't work out with it work it you sometimes you have to give to get. And this doesn't mean that everything has to be like toil and working hard. It just means that it takes time. And I think sometimes the best things take time. You have to appreciate the journey, especially coaching. And I can talk about my experience playing college football. Um, yes, the wins, like we won the Big 12 championship twice. And we went to two bowl games, and it was a great feeling, great playing for a winning team and successful teams.
Yeah.
Uh, what was even better was all the lessons I learned getting to being successful. And I think those things have stuck with me more than the victories. The victories will come and go. Like, again, in 2014, 2013, when we won that, yeah, we were having the best time of our lives. Like, we were great. Like, but guess what? You're only the champion until the next champion is there. And then you get forgotten real quickly. And so if you
Yeah.
haven't gotten anything out of it but the winning, then it gets really depressing at sometimes because now you're just stuck in this one place where you're trying to get this one feeling that may never come. Because when you're playing college football, you only have 4 years to be a national champion. When you're
Yeah.
playing the NFL, you have as many years as they allow you to be a Super Bowl champion. And once you've tasted that, you never know if you're going to get it again. It's a big gamble. That's why sports is a risk.
Oh
But
yeah.
what you have to kind of start cherishing is, hey, like where I'm at right now, am I embracing it? Am I cherishing it? Am I cherishing the experience that I'm getting? Am I cherishing the friendships that I'm making? Am I cherishing even the things that I got out of it? Like, like me getting my beautiful wife from, being in that way. Well, if I wasn't a football player, would have never met her. And I think at the same time, like, for fans looking in at that, it's like us athletes are human beings. We want to do our best to impress you, but we're human beings as well, and you have to kind of understand that like anything that is worth building, it takes time and you have to give it a chance. You can't knock it when it's not working when you want it to work. And it's not to knock people that feel like that, but it's just to say like, hey, like stick with the process because at the end of the day, like when you watch a sport, when you get involved in a sport, you don't get involved in it for just the rewards and the accolades. You get into it for how it makes you feel, how it
Yeah.
makes you as a fan feel involved.
Mhm.
And I feel like when you decide to bash your team, you're actually saying to yourself, "I don't want to be involved in this," and that makes the experience worse.
Yeah.
No matter which coach steps in, if they're trying, like they have said, like, "Hey, I am coming here to invest in this team. I'm coming here to invest in you all." So trust that, and let them be a part of the process. And usually, good things happen when that happens.
Oh, most definitely. And a lot of that also goes into, I feel, the whole pro wrestling business with
Hmm.
with your opponents, your like your tag partners, or hell, anybody, the promoters, even that trust. And when you can really tell from a fan's perspective when there is that just natural trust there, because those matches just gel together way better than
Hmm.
and you can tell when there isn't that trust there. It's just plain as day. But
Hmm.
yeah, totally understand you there because
Hmm.
a lot of the stuff you brought up, with me being a fan of pro wrestling, if I wouldn't have met some of the people that I did, then with well, hell, my wife. At the time that I met her, one of my friends who is a wrestler was trying to get me to go to this one promotion.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? If next show they have on a day I have off, I'm there. I wasn't even there 30, 40 minutes. And he was like, I got somebody I want you to meet. And the lady that's now my wife at the time helped out at the merch table. So, and then, you know, hell, with the podcast, even, some of the people that I've met, you know, just getting the idea to do it. And then some of the people that I met through the process, the guys that invented the Spanish fly. They were my first big name that I had on. And then I've had the guy that Kerry Silken, the guy that used to own Ring of Honor. I had when my podcast got to be a part of Warrior Wrestling when they were in St. Louis. I got to, well, I got to meet a bunch of great people like Mike Bennett, like Athena, like Jeff Cobb. And then I actually got to have a shorter episode with this person, but I actually got to talk to Bronson Reed
Hmm.
when he was jumping, like he was in between Impact and uh, New Japan. Like he
Hmm.
was doing both at that one point. That's when I met him. And yeah, that was something else. But yeah, it just came to believing that after I started talking with having some of my friends in the area on, and I just got the idea, let's see if it sticks. And I DM'd the Maximo brothers, the SATs, and was like, you know what, this might be a long shot, but here. And then boom, off to the races I went.
Hmm. And
And
we're here today.
it exactly on to the, like I mentioned, yesterday was the recording of the 200th episode. Now we're on to the road to 300 and beyond.
Let's go. We're gonna get there.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm confident there. Now, I always love hearing a bit of an origin story on people's in ring personas.
Mhm.
You have the martial arts background, which with looking in there, can tell with the in ring persona, it kind of really fits in there. Now, with how you came up with, you know, your in ring persona, how did that come about?
I always say that your in-ring persona, obviously with wrestling, it's always going to be a times 10 of mostly who you are. And I
Yeah.
think the Ronin character like reflects a lot of who I am, my beliefs, and just how I perceive life, which is Bushido. And
Mm.
I, I'm also a Christian by faith, and I always believe in, even though you're a warrior, like, what does a warrior do? A warrior is not going out there necessarily to go out to harm people, but they're going out there to honor and battle. And I think that's really where my in-ring persona, it stood out to me because it's the most authentic way to be myself in the ring without trying to do too much to not show people who I am. I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's kind of easy to, especially when you're in the limelight. I kind of felt that when I was going back to college football for a little bit. That sometimes it's kind of easy to feel like you're being inauthentic, like you're living this life, because I would say I'm probably a naturally shy person. I'm a very big nerd, but I'm a good athlete, and I've been doing martial arts like my whole life.
Yeah.
And mostly the principles, the discipline, all of those facets of it are really impactful for me. And I say, oh shoot, that's what I want to be able to convey when I get into the ring, because when I do get into the ring, I can convey that and people can believe it. And I think that's really the best thing. Is, at the end of the day, as a fan, I want to make sure that they believe what I'm doing, because that's exactly what got me interested. I believed every storyline. Like there was a point when I found out that, like, when I found out, like, that some of the wrestlers who I thought were worst enemies are now best friends. I'm like, yeah, what? No, 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 you guys should not be. But
I remember going through that myself.
and I think the way I kind of liken it to, because a lot of people, especially people outside who are probably on the fence about wrestling, I say, like, well, when you watch your favorite movie, or ask you about your favorite movie, what made you love that movie? And then you
Yeah.
say the believability of the characters that were in the movie. And it's the same thing with wrestling. And
Exactly.
that's really it. And I think that's really where I said to myself, as the Ronin, as a person who's gonna be an in-ring performer, how do I get fans to feel that way about me?
Mm.
Where it's like, hey, like you got me to believe what you were doing in the ring,
Yeah.
and it touched me in some way where it's like, either made me emotional, made me cry, made me happy, made me mad, it made me sad. Like, how did I touch you in that way? Because if you have that touch in that moment at that point, then I know that you were invested and you were looking at my match the whole time. And that's really that's where I get a lot of my joy from
Yeah.
because it shows me that hey, 100% I came out here and I entertained someone because I'm
Yeah.
not just coming out here to collect paychecks. I'm not coming out here just to beat people up. I'm coming out here to make everybody feel the experience, like join me in the experience. This is an experience. This is an immersive experience. You get something out of me, I get something out of you. And it's again going back to that whole idea of the relationship.
Mhm.
It's a give and take. I have to give to them, and they want to give to me. And I think this persona is definitely the way that I could achieve that.
Oh yeah. And it's a great point because, it's been said a bunch that, like you said, the best in-ring personas are just that person turned up to 10 or more. Like, hell, you brought up Steve Austin, my personal all-time favorite. Like, the one wrestler that I swear if I got to meet, I'd be so damn starstruck. I don't know if I'd get a word out. And, hell, I got some stuff behind me of his. But yeah, that and those also tend to be the characters that get that reaction out of people. They're like, you know what? I know this stuff is predetermined, but you made me question myself.
Hmm.
And also going into, it is those reactions that offer that escape. Like people will go to a show because they want to have fun. And you know what? Maybe earlier in that day, they were having just an absolute shit day. That just
Hmm.
was not in a great mood. But then they go to the show and boom, for that little bit of time, they had that escape because they were enjoying the show. So
Hmm.
totally get you. I've been there with a bunch of shows, especially during some times where outside of the show wasn't so great for me. And that's why health, again with the podcast, that's why whew, my friends sometimes give me shit, but I make the joke. I love my Dr. Pepper, but it gives me the burps like crazy. But now where was I going? Oh, that escape because hell, I definitely been there. Hell, I even remember somebody that I had on before. He was at the time a commentator at Game Changer Wrestling, and I just tweeted out that you know what, I was going through a rough time, and I thanked them for the escape, and they actually mentioned it on the show. So I was like, okay, I'm for this little bit of time I'm watching this, I'm good. Just from
Hmm.
and now going from the Ronin in ring persona, there's a couple of promotions. Looking at your when I was doing homework for the episode, that the first one I wanted to talk about because I love learning about promotions that I might not have been aware of before. Love learning about new stuff, but it kind of fits in with the Ronin warrior uh, persona, gladiator wrestling. That
Hmm.
one there, and Facebook profile. Correct me if I'm wrong. You at least were one of the champions there. Are
I'm,
you still?
I'm still the heavyweight champion for Gladiator Championship Wrestling.
All right, that is awesome. Because I mean, hell, I remember looking at some of the stuff on your Facebook page, and some of the posters. I'm like, oh damn! I just looking from those. I'm like, okay, I might need to check on this. So what is it? What do you got going on there besides being the champ?
Gladiator Championship Wrestling has been almost like home. They've treated me so well. And to be fair, I don't want to speak on just that promotion. I'm
Oh
working
yeah.
on the Premier Wrestling Federation in Houston, Soul Championship Wrestling, which was my home promotion for a while. That runs out of Dallas, Texas. CKW again, another Soul home promotion, which runs out of Arkansas.
Mm.
Ozark Wrestling, Hypecon Wrestling, which I'm going to be debuting at soon.
Mm.
Um, Also,
OMW.
yeah, that's Ozark Mountain
That
Wrestling.
that was the Ozark one. Okay,
That's
because I
Ozark
did
Mountain.
see the poster I saw. I did say that it said that the show was in Arkansas, so that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, and then also Lone Star Pro Wrestling. And there's probably gonna be a few others that I'm definitely missed out. If I did, please forgive me. Hustle Wrestling, obviously, that's another home promotion with one of my coaches from back in England, Johnny Bailey. So Sid Scala from NXT UK. And those I guess the biggest thing about promotions and working there is when you go and you get that homey feel and you know that hey 100% not only that I'm on here with like competitors that are high level. And I think that's the biggest thing because whether it's a fight, whether it's a wrestling match, whether it's a football game, whether it's any kind of sporting contest, you want to know that I'm being pushed to the test because you don't get better by facing challenges that you know you can beat. You get better by going through the challenges where you aren't too sure.
Yeah,
Because one of the things you're going to learn a lot about yourself is if I'm either as good as I say I am, or there's a lot more to learn. But either way, I'm going to learn. And because usually it's you only suck in any sense of the word. And this is something that came directly from my coach and for jiu-jitsu is you only really suck if you're trying to stay the way you are in a situation that's ever changing. But if you are trying to adapt with the situation and get better as it goes along, so if you start sucking, but you realize that you start to try to rise to the level, then guess what? You're going to get better. And then by the end of it, you probably won't look like you suck no more because you try to get better. But if you're
yeah,
trying to stay the way that you are in a situation which is definitely getting away from you, then it's going
yeah,
to be glaringly obvious. And that doesn't come down to a lack of effort or skill. It just comes down to humility. Like, how humble are you to just look at yourself and say, like, hey, like, I can get better at something. And that's what I always talk my wife gets on me all the time. I train pretty much like every day, whether it's gym practice, jujitsu, martial arts, mobility, yoga, even wrestling. Um, the reason why is because you have to, if you're going to do something and you're going to be part of a craft, you have to get better because
yeah,
want to, again, going back to the Ronin persona, I don't think it's honorable to go and not be ready for an opponent. I don't think
yeah,
it's possible to be like at your weakest or, not to be at your full strength because your opponent is wanting to get better. Your opponent's wanting to prove something. So you have to
yeah,
get proven. You wanted to prove something. You wanted to prove something against your opponent. So you would think that they're doing their due diligence and that they are 100% working hard, sharpening their tools. So then that way they can give you their best
mm.
because the best against the best, guess what? That's a contest that people want to see. They don't want to see
Oh yeah,
this guy against this guy and this guy's definitely up here and this guy's definitely down there because it's not riveting. It's not like Thanos Thanos. He didn't
yeah,
face all the Avengers. He faced all of them. Why? Because that's a contest. It needed all of them to at least match up to him in some way, and that's a riveting contest. It was just Thanos versus Captain America. We ain't interested in that because we know who the winner's gonna be, and we're like, oh man, Captain America's got no chance of beating Thanos. Let me turn this off because I could tell you I could tell you what would happen even before looking at it.
yeah, yeah. And it goes back to that whole believability factor. Given that people, while they know it's predetermined, they don't know what the outcome's going to be. So
Mhm.
you you have people that when you're watching, they at least look pretty even. So then you're like, oh boy, what? How is this gonna go?
Mhm.
And you give them that,
Mhm.
boom, right there. And now I was gonna, ah, whew, you mentioned being a nerd and uh, some references to Thanos and stuff. Me, what I have behind me here. My wife likes to call me a nerd sometimes. Like,
Hey, nothing, no shame. There is no
it,
shame in that. I see some.
yeah.
I see Ducktales in there.
Oh, yeah. I have some new Funko Pops from. I was just up in Minneapolis for the Vikings Packers game, and I got some from the Mall of America. Like, yeah, I got Donald Duck, I got Mickey, Chippendale, I got them, and I even got some autographed ones, like the voice of Michelangelo from the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon, and the guy behind Splinter from the first two movies, and well, the Ronin, the the last Ronin, the the hard back with the ooh, all right. And I actually at a recent collectible convention picked this one up. The first appearance of Krang, Bebop, and Rocksteady.
Let's go.
Yeah. And when I heard that Townsend Coleman, the voice of Michelangelo, was going to be at this convention, I'm like, I legit told him, you hearing you were going to be here sold me on even coming. And then I got some other autograph ones like Green Ranger, Jason David Frank. I met him a couple months before
May he rest
everything.
in peace.
And then talking about Captain America, I think it's Jim Shooter, the guy behind that had been behind Marvel for a while. Boom, what Captain America one signed by him. And then all of my I got a handful of wrestling figures signed and a bunch unsigned, but hell, Keith Lee, Swerve,
Let's
uh,
go.
Head Shrinker Fatu,
Let's go.
Kushida, Rich Swan, Taya Valkyrie. Like,
I was gonna say, and also with Marvel, don't forget that Echo has come out today. So if you get a chance,
yes, I had heard about that.
hmm
That's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to try to check that one out. But yeah, I like a little bit of everything. But then, I almost forgot. Souvenir shot glasses. And then when I was growing up, it was pro wrestling and Ninja Turtles for me. I mean, we talked about some, but like most of my Ninja Turtle figures, all up there. I love the Universal Monster mashup ones.
hmm
I'm not a completionist, but I do. That is going to be one of them that I'm like, I want all of them.
hmm
Like I have Michelangelo, Raphael, Casey Jones, and April right now, so I'm looking for the other ones. So we'll see. But yeah. Oh, when I got some other collectibles, some signed stuff. Like I interviewed famous deathmatch wrestler Alex Colon, and I ended up buying his old ring worn kick pads, and he actually signed them. I'm waiting to get them displayed. So, like, yeah, I'm huge nerd for all that.
there is no shame in it,
So, before we get into some of my categories I have here, because I got two to round off the show. What are some of the favorite things you have besides the last Ronin book there? What because I see some stuff displayed behind you there.
So, a lot of that stuff, I mean, I got some Ninja Turtle prints from Ninja Johnny. He's the guy that he was in I think it was the second Teenage Ninja Turtle movie, and so he signed those for me, and so that's in that collection. But
Okay, my favorite of the original Ninja Turtle movies, The Secret of the Ooze. Oh, I
it's
love that
best,
damn movie.
it's the best movie. And actually, if you get the chance, you have to watch the new one. It's on Paramount Plus. It is absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if you watched it already. If you have, I apologize.
Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah,
That I watched that in the theater.
phenomenal. It is
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
I was 100% very impressed with that movie. I was like, oh, this right here is definitely the best, like best animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie at
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
So
No, most definitely. I can definitely say that myself.
yeah, I'll give it that. Like, and then I mean, with the rest of this stuff right here, um, I went to like a lot of Comic Cons, and
Mm.
then artists that did a lot of original pieces. So I have everything up there because I'm a big gaming fan. So I've got Sonic the Hedgehog's, Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Samus, and I'm a big anime manga fan. So I've got like Demon Slayer, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I got Spider-Man up there. I got a few more that I need to hang up. And then I got my manga collection. Like I got a lot of manga collection, a lot of game collectibles, my Marvel comics, and then also one of my biggest pieces is I'm a big Star Wars fan as well, and I
Ah,
love
yeah.
the Disney Plus
Oh,
Star Wars Vision series. So I got the art book, and it is absolutely phenomenal.
oh, definitely. Yeah, that looks impressive. But yeah, like me, it's mostly figures. Like I do have, when WWE used to have the WWE New York restaurant.
Hmm.
I only went there once, but I still have the glass,
Hmm.
and I have a few from. We talked a little bit about movies, and I actually have a question on this in one of my categories. But one of my favorite movies ever, Forrest Gump.
Hmm.
I've now been to. They actually have Bubba Gump shrimp restaurants. I've been to now four,
Hey, let's
and I
go.
got I got glasses from at least two of
Hmm.
them, and I even got a souvenir shot glass, the whole Dr. Pepper thing. That I got a Dr. Pepper one right up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like the way you were drinking that Dr. Pepper, if you didn't have one, I'd be surprised.
Oh man, when my wife was going through the gift shop before we left, she saw that before I did, and she's like, "Hey, babe." I'm like, "Yeah, how's that?" Yeah, my wife gives me shit. She says I have a problem. I'm like, as long as I got some, I don't have a problem. It's all figured out.
Hmm. I mean, shoot, there's better problems to have. Like that's what I
I
was
was
talking.
gonna say there's worse stuff
There's,
that I could have an addiction to. So yeah, just be thankful.
yeah, that part right there. Like like take this one over take this one over the other ones that are out there.
Exactly. All right. So now I have two categories here. First one's a bit of a name game where I take some people, you give me some quick thoughts on them. And
Hmm.
some of these guys, well, all of these that I have on here are also, well, big in, the African American community.
Hmm.
And like I'm trying to look here. I've met half of them.
Sweet.
Two of them are actually signed figures up there. So we'll get right into it. I give you the name, you give me some quick thoughts on the person.
Hmm.
First one. Well, I guess there's no better way to introduce this guy besides whose house? Swerve's house.
Um, man, I think Swerve from when I first saw him, like on NXT till now. I mean, the guy is just like leveled up big time. I think he's
Oh,
become a limiting character. And I think what he's shown is as a talent and as a wrestler that, you know, he gets it. He knows exactly what to do. And I think that right there, especially for people who feel like they have that style or feel like they want to follow that style, like study that, like
yeah.
see what made him like. I mean, and when I say study that, it's like look at him from where he was to where he is now,
Yeah.
and look at the little nuances and the transitions because you can probably see the big differences, but it's those little details that make the character. And I think that's, like 100%, like, he he has evolved in a great way.
Oh, definitely. And hell, the run that he's on now, and there's already people out there that are saying that within the next year, if not sooner, he's gonna be the first black AEW champion. I'm like, he's one that I remember watching him from clear back in Lucha Underground
Hmm.
and seeing him as kill shot up to now. Man, loving it.
Hmm.
And he's one of my signed figures up there. I actually met him in Des Moines, Iowa, at a show for Sammy Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver,
Hmm.
and I was a little bummed because he wasn't at the pre-show meet and greet deal they have. So I was like a little bummed. And then all of a sudden, I'm walking out to my car and I see somebody filming a promo out in the parking lot. And I get a little closer and it swerves. So I'm like, well, I'll stand over here and wait till he's done. And like, I don't know. I've had this conversation before with people that, it's weird that sometimes the people that in front of the camera play like the biggest, just pure heels, like they're just despicable, are some of the absolute nicest people behind the camera. Swerve, definitely one of them. You know, looking at, his current persona right now, you know, in front of that camera, he is one sadistic son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But
I,
behind the camera, one of the nicest people I've ever met.
I think it lends to the quote that I heard that for somebody to know what true bad is, it has to be a good person because like, a good person is always trying to be good. And if you're a good person that's looking at bad, you know how to you know what that looks like. So if it makes sense. It's like if he's like genuinely like a nice, good guy, then he would know what true bad looks like. He's acting like the things he doesn't want to see. So, that again, another little tidbit for anybody else who's trying to kind of go down that route. It's just like, like, hey, like know those things like what like because more than likely the thing that you hate the most is the thing that probably somebody else hates the most, and the more you can be that person, the more believable you'll be when you're trying to be that person, if you know what I'm saying.
You know what? I don't think I'd ever heard that one, but it describes it perfectly.
Hmm.
Absolutely perfectly. Now, the next person on the list, I'm a huge fan of him as well. I haven't got to meet him yet, but good lord, the way he's getting certain stuff over, he is aligned with Swerve right now. Prince Nana.
Ooh, hey, as a Ghanaian, a fellow Ghanaian, that's where my parents are from. I'm always 100% I got a very big bias towards my Ghanaian brothers and sisters who are in the wrestling business and who are doing really well. And so Prince Nana, like, I think he gets a pass as a great wrestler, even if you don't think so, just because he's Ghanaian. So I know it's unfair, but it's just the way it is. But his character is so amazing. I think he's got such an again, I'm really impressed with what people kind of take and do with the product because you can be given anything and you can do anything with it. And we've seen that spectrum throughout wrestling in different
Yeah.
countries, in different promotions and so forth. But then when you meet people who can like, legit do it and do it really well, you have to take some time to admire that because it's a really hard skill to do. It's really hard to make people believe what you're doing. And I think with him and what he's doing, because I know he's aligned with one half of the tag team that he's aligned with. I remember I faced them at my promotion in November of I think it was 2020.
Oh, the one half of the Gates of Agony.
Yeah, Corn, because he was part of the
Ah,
same
yeah.
Solitude. So I faced him And again, another great wrestler. From when I met him almost 3 years ago now to what he's doing now, it's an honor that I even got to share the same ring with the guy.
Yeah.
But he is like 100%, like he is killing it, and I think that's just like kind of like a testament to them as well.
Oh yeah, and going back to Prince Nana there, I can't help but just absolutely love it every time he's out there, especially recently on an episode of AEW where I believe it was Swerve going up against Daniel Garcia, and they were doing that little bit of the dance off with the Prince Nana dance, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is epic. I'm
Mhm.
loving it. And Swerve is actually supposed to be going back to Sammy Callahan's promotion for a show again in Des Moines. So I'm hoping that if he is indeed showing up, I'm like crossing my fingers, like, oh God, please bring Prince Nana with him. Oh my God. Because I actually tweeted him this, but like it's legit serious. And he actually retweeted it. I'm like, well, I didn't know it before, but I do now that to do the Prince Nana dance with him, I need to do it. I'm not typical white guy. I ain't got no damn rhythm, but to I would do it to get to do a video of that with him.
And I'm sure
All
I'm sure it look amazing.
right. Oh man, I'd probably be making one huge ass out of myself, but whatever. All right, next one. Another one of my signed figures up there. Limitless Keith Lee.
And with Keith, I think he not only has he taken the big man mold and done something that I think Bam Bam Bigelow did and Big Bam Vader did when
Exactly.
they were, when they were big wrestlers. He's taken that and he has transformed it. Because I think everybody's kind of like, had this idea of what big guys are meant to do, what big guys, because even me, I'm a pretty sizable fella. And I think what he's kind of shown is again, like like hey, big guys can do different things.
Oh
And
yeah.
when you're looking at the books, because I think and the way he shows and puts it together is a unique offense, and I think really what that goes is like people will be like, well, what do you mean, like big guys are meant to just slam people, throw people around the ring, but it's like, yeah, but you have to understand you're trying to win a fight, and I think he puts that together to tell that story. Like I'm not just doing this to just be entertaining. I'm actually doing this to win the fight. Like, this
Yeah.
this move at this time where you might think is a high flying move or this, like it was actually intended to win the fight. And
Oh,
I think he's changed the game, and he stands on the card, and he again the fact that we can say like when we can say Keith Lee and know what Keith Lee match is gonna be about, that's big. Like because not many people can actually be able to say that. Okay, like Joe Schmo is having a match. Cool. Okay, it's gonna like and he's gonna see what that match is about. Keith Lee's having a match. Oh, I know exactly what's gonna happen, and I'm excited to see what's gonna go down.
yeah. You
And
would
so,
you want to watch that?
yeah,
Get my
exactly.
eyes there.
I watched him versus Shane Taylor at the ROH event that just recently happened. And my goodness, I tell you right now, that was such a brilliant match. And
Oh yeah.
I think yeah, like they've changed the whole dynamic of big man wrestling, and I think
Mm,
it's changed in a way that maybe it might still take a while to catch on. I don't know if everybody's still rocking with that in terms of like that's what big men are supposed to do, but I think Keith is doing a great job of keeping that going forward and showing to people like like hey, like we don't have to be kept in boxes in terms
yeah.
of what we as performers will do, so yeah, no, big shout out to Keith.
Oh, most definitely. Truly, as his name goes, limitless. Because yeah, he can do the power stuff, as evidenced by that famous clip of back in the NXT days when he just ran up to Adam Cole and just rammed him off into the crowd, just
Dude,
boom out of nowhere. And
like
then
Mario launched him.
and then he's also able to do stuff that you think would only be done by cruiserweights. He's able to do some of that, some high flying stuff like leaping over the top rope and stuff. It's like amazing stuff that you know those agile big men that they seem kind of few and far between. Going back to Bam Bam Bigelow, one of my personal all time favorites. I mean, hell, the visual of him alone with the flame tattoos on his head and stuff.
I mean, I think like, what we have to kind of like, remember is, they're athletes. So like, guess what? They're gonna be able to do some athletic stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to. Yes, you can go there with your preconceived ideas and so forth, which is great.
Yeah,
It's obviously like the looks and everything else. Everybody has generalizations based on what you see, but always go in there like I would say with a glass half full, where it's
yeah.
like I know what's going on, but I'm gonna be ready for what's coming next.
Oh, yeah. Last but not least, here, a guy that, you know, trying to figure out a way to introduce him, but I can't think of anything better than five time, five time, five time WCW champion, Booker T.
Uncle Booker. That's the guy. Like one of the guys that I really want to meet. I really would love to go down to reality of wrestling in Houston, and just not for nothing else but to shake the guy's hand, man. Because again, watching his story and even listening to like kind of some of the history of like some of the stuff that he did, man, I don't think people kind of give him enough credit for what he has done for the like for black people and modern day wrestling. And I think
Yeah,
that's a big thing because there's a lot of his moveset that he brought in, which wasn't being done at the time.
yeah,
And just the fact of him being able to bring that to the wrestling ring meant that we get our people like Swerves and the Shelton Benjamins and like the R-Truths and everybody who like and when you look at that's are in some ways shapes and forms somewhat similar and I think the people at Booker, he's so iconic. His persona was so much larger than life, and then the fact that he's still around, just giving wisdom to the game, and I think it's giving wisdom to the game in an enriching way, where it's not him trying to stay relevant in the business and trying to, kind of like be like, look at me. It's him saying like, like, yeah, you know what, I'm so passionate about wrestling. I'm so passionate about the next generation that I'm going to do everything to give my all to give back and to make sure that the next generation of wrestlers have the chance to experience what I experienced, which is greatness. And I think like just to sit down and just pick his brain and
yeah.
just to be in the same room as him and just hear the knowledge and the wisdom, that's priceless because that that right there is a guy that I remember watching him a lot when he was with Stevie Ray and Harlem Heat, like when I
Mm.
was young and WCW Nitro was a big thing. And then when I saw him make the transition to the WWE, like at the time, I was like, this is Booker T. But never did I imagine when that transition happened that we're looking at this guy right here, and he's bigger than some names that were even like like the names in WWE at the time, and that's big, man. So I call him Uncle. I don't know him personally, but I
Mm.
call him Uncle just because he is that Uncle Wisdom, man,
Yeah.
and that right there. That's the man right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's him.
I can agree. Now, I did say last but not least here, but I wanted to see about thoughts on this guy because in looking at the Ronin persona and then pictures and then thinking back to a guy that also had the martial arts connection, but and well, not so much as far as in the African American community, obviously with this guy, but Steve Blackman.
Oh man, I'm glad that you mentioned that guy because a lot of the Ronin inspiration came from Steve Blackman. I watched him growing up during the Attitude Era, and he was one of my favorite wrestlers, one of my favorite hardcore champions. Just because at the time that he was wrestling, he was not doing what everybody else did. It was different. I
Yeah.
looked at this guy, and at the time I was doing karate and so forth, and my mom would see me like watching him because what we had Sky TV, so before I could even like watch pay-per-views or watch like full episodes of Monday Night Raw, I'd get like the heats and all those like little shows that kind of show
Yeah.
snippets of what went on, and then every time I'd see Steve Blackman coming, I'd be copying his moves, and my mom would be looking at me like, "What are you doing?" It's like this big Steve, and I always wanted to be that guy. Like I looked to him and I wanted to be him. Obviously, I couldn't be white, but I wanted, I wanted to be Steve, and even learning more about him as an adult, in my age now, and just like learning about his persona and so forth. There's so many similarities in terms of the way he used to conduct himself, in terms of the way he used to hold himself, and I would say in some ways that the Ronin persona is a tribute to Steve Blackman and what he did because I feel like there hasn't been a character like that ever, that's been in wrestling. There hasn't been a persona, somebody who kind of like dedicates that craft to the wrestling ring because I always say like, everybody talks to me about, well, like, wrestling, it's like I think at the end of the day, and this is for like the new people coming in as well. If you can keep it simple down to anything, like yes, there is a lot of things and nuances to wrestling, but what we need to remember is that we're simulating a fight. It's
Mm.
a fight first and foremost, and you have to show that you have some fighting skills.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I try to hone that in my craft, and I think Steve Blackman for me, if I could sum up that definition into a person, is him.
Yeah. And it was, in talking about it now, it was like I was getting this grin on my face because even before you mentioning that, I'm like, I see the similarities between the two. So knowing that, I'm like, okay, I even without me knowing it, all right, cool. All right. So now I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far. That's why it's random. But the first one is one that I like to keep in as much as possible because, to say the least, I've heard some interesting stories from this question. Craziest in match moment for you. So, like, each question, I give you the question, you give me first answer that pops in your head.
Oh shoot! Like recently, when I took a superplex off the top rope, I think it was definitely an interesting experience because when I got on the top rope, like that rope was like super shaky. I was like, goodness gracious! Like it was almost like stepping in quicksand. So I thought to myself, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to get my neck like literally broken on this thing. But luckily, like I was able to just like kind of like overflip to compensate for the shaky ropes. But it felt great. Like actually, it was one of those things where it's like, oh man, this is a pretty comfortable bump. But like I just remember I was sweating buckets because I was like, man,
I can imagine.
yeah, I was stepping on the thing and I was just like, thinking to myself, wait, why is this top rope going all the way down to the second rope? I am like gonna absolutely die right now. So that would put me that comes up there as the craziest in-ring moment for me, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that would be a good one. Yeah, I like I said, I love hearing the stories behind it because I believe it was Lloyd Anoa'i that told me about when he was in the original ECW and he had a match with New Jack, and they had, I guess there was this, they weren't supposed to do this, but then they ended up, they both went through a wall, and then Paul Heyman was yelling at them after the match.
Mm. I
So
mean,
little stuff like that you wouldn't normally hear in, you know, everyday conversations, or hell, maybe only way you'd hear about it is that maybe in some of those wrestling documentaries would be the only way you get a story like that. But yeah, I've witnessed some crazy ones, like in the crowd. Like I've seen flaming glass. I've seen, I've had a friend in a multi-person ladder match have a guy on his back and jump onto a ladder that was bridged, and then boom, ladder folded. And God, what? I was at a no ring deathmatch show, and actually, luckily, I was wearing closed-toed shoes. I had a that connector thing at the end of a light tube. I had one of those fly off and hit me in the foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've witnessed some crazy ones. So I always love asking that question. Now, I've seen a lot of people on social media right now in the business post different stuff about, like, maybe more so for them, their bucket list for 2024.
Mhm.
What would you say is like a dream match that you might put on there?
Any match that's in Japan, I think, I said to myself, I had two bucket list things that if they happen today, I could easily walk away from wrestling and say like I didn't need to wrestle again. Like, unless I did one, which last year I wrestled in my home city of London, England. So I was like,
Yeah,
that's one that's off the list.
yeah.
Last thing that's on the list is to have my match in Japan, and it doesn't matter who it's against. Doesn't matter, like, if it's someone famous or someone local. Like, if it's someone like, like, even if it's someone who just for the sake of having it, like, just said I'll do it for free. Um, and I know that might sound like a weird one, but it's just to be able to say that I stepped out there and was able to perform and do a match out there. I mean, that's big for me,
Oh,
and it's just, again, it reflects my style of wrestling so much. It reflects a lot of, like, my confidence and, like, kind of growing up in the martial arts world. And so, I don't really have a person I would face as opposed to a location I would like to
yeah.
be facing someone in.
Understandable. I've been lucky enough to interview a couple people that have gone through Japan. Like, oh God, I think he was my 101st episode. Clark Connors had had him on, and that was a fun one. But yeah, it is still on my bucket list for wrestling to just go on a trip and go to a show over there.
Mhm.
Because, like, yeah, it would be a plus if it were a show like Wrestle Kingdom. But
Mhm.
hell, just to go on a trip and go to a wrestling show over there, knowing the bits that I do about Japanese wrestling, it's just something that it's always in the back of my head. Like, I need to do that,
Mhm.
and maybe get the chance of running into some of my personal favorites over there right now, like Tomohiro Ishii. Like, I
Mhm.
swear, if I got to meet that guy, yep. Because, like, I have, much like you, I have people that I would love to have on the podcast that are of that level that it's like, if I ever truly got them,
Mhm.
I could never do another episode and I would be just as happy. Like,
Mhm.
we talked about Stone Cold. I swear to God, if I ever actually got him, you know what? I'm done. I can't top that. For me, I can't top that.
Hey, 100%, I believe it will happen.
I'm I'm hoping, because yeah, I'm literally saying it right now. If that ever happened, you know what? Once that episode releases, I'm done. I,
Hmm.
I can't top that anymore. That's it. God, that, like, I could die happy if I ever got. All right. Now, we talked a little bit about movies. I mentioned one of my favorites. What would you say is a favorite movie of yours?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would say, like, right now, just because like it's a movie that I always refer to all the time, I'll probably say like Avengers: Infinity War. I mean,
Okay, that's a good choice.
it's the movie that has like everything in it. And
Yeah.
legit, I thought like had the perfect ending that no one ever saw coming, and legit just told the story. And I think that's big. So like I would definitely say that right there is like the movie for me. I could watch it all the time and just like just be like 10%. This is that movie.
Most definitely. I remember people talking about how long that movie was, but I remember going to see it in the theaters, and like I guess I didn't realize how long it was until I got out of the movie. But then I'm
Mhm.
like, oh god, and that's the mark of a really good movie that gets you invested to that way where like it could be a long movie, but you don't really realize it until you're walking out of the theater and you're checking your phone.
And you're like, oh, dude, it's like 11 o'clock at nighttime. Like, I probably should go to bed right now.
Oh yeah, and like currently, yeah, that would be up there for me. There's also ones like, we talked about Secret of the Use. I could
Mhm.
watch that a
And,
billion times, wouldn't care. And but one that kind of fits into, you know, martial arts and all that, that I don't think when people look at me that they think that I would be a fan of this, but I am a huge fan of him. Enter the Dragon.
my guy, Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah. Holy moly, I love that damn movie. And
Mhm.
going a little wrestling tie-in that to this day, every time I think about it, it's absolutely crazy to me that the same thing that killed him, Shibata survived it.
hmm Hey, and I think that's really like, coming down to that, right? I think that's really where sometimes you have to kind of be grateful with life because, you know,
Yeah.
it's again, situations affect people very differently, and you never know like which one is gonna be like, the one that's gonna get you. So it's like all the time you have to have like appreciation for life and like what life brings, you know?
No, most definitely. Cherish the stuff, the good stuff while you can, because you never know when you're just going to be gone and you don't get to anymore.
And to be honest, I can say that I can say that because I've had a few friends, but you look at them and you be like, man, they weren't even like they were young, and just again, three things in life, like kind of take them away. So that appreciation for like kind of like like man, would it be great to still have Bruce Lee?
Oh yeah.
Yes, but we still have Shibata, so like 110%, and we're still blessed,
Oh, most definitely. And I hear that he is like signing at like actually signing with AEW so he can finish up his career there. So
I
that's a shot in the arm for them. But yeah, like I not to put a damper on anything, but I have had those friends that, I mean, maybe not necessarily young, they were older than me, but like, like a lot of friends, you might not talk every day. You might go a week or so and not talk. Well, I had one that I met after I got back from the Navy that, what was it? I was, we went a while without talking. And then all of a sudden, without even thinking about it, I'm like, holy crap, I haven't heard from this guy in a while. And then it got time to choosing, groomsmen for my wife and I's wedding. And I was going to have him, but I couldn't get a hold of him. So I'm like, well, shit. Only to find out that a little over a week after I last talked to him, he had passed away. And I didn't find out for over a year. And I only found out because the friend was also a military veteran. And my wife found his headstone at the National Cemetery, which is just on the other side of town. And when I saw that and I went to go visit him for the first time, I realized that a former coworker of mine was buried in that same section, and I had walked by the one friend's grave without even realizing he was there. And that, learning to appreciate everything while you have it, because it took me a while to get over the fact of holy crap, I literally walked right by his grave and had no idea he was there.
Hmm.
Like that took a while. So yes, be appreciative of what you have while you still got it.
120%, please.
Now, with the name of a show like I have, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question. But I like to emphasize just because the name of the show says drinking at Moe's does not mean that it has to be alcoholic, but I do like to ask this question. Favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or not?
Has to be kombucha.
Don't think I've heard it.
So it's like fermented tea. So like
Oh, okay.
you get some black tea bags, you get some green tea bags, you ferment them for a while, and it makes this sparkling probiotic drink. And to be honest, I only started drinking it like maybe let's say like 2017 was the first time I ever had it, right? And then ever since then, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I 100% drink it religiously every week. I think if you don't, and to anybody who hasn't tried it, who hasn't heard of it, I will disclaimer: if you are gonna try it and you do not like vinegar, don't try it because it does have a vinegary taste. So like that's the biggest disclaimer. If you don't like the taste of vinegar, you might not like it, but 110%, like I drink that and I think it's absolutely delicious.
Hey, you know what? I'm always one to give everything a shot at least once. So
Hmm.
who knows? Maybe this one of these days I'll end up having it. Yeah, I've always considered myself, as far as alcoholic stuff goes, more of a beer guy. Like, everywhere I go, I on trips, I try to get some of the local stuff. Like when I was up in Minnesota, I had finished what I bought there. But yeah, literally anywhere. Like, especially if I have friends that used to live in the area, I'll be like, what's some of the good local stuff? And they're like, oh, you need to try this. I'm like, okay, let's go get it. Yeah. Up in Minnesota, there was one that I guess is one of those, like the really cheap ones that like people get when like, oh, they're going on a fishing trip and they just need some cheap beer. Well, the friend I was with, he was like, oh, you need to try this. And I'm like, okay. And he got a laugh out of me actually trying it because I told him, the way you describe this beer? Yeah, pretty much. Because the way he described it, I'm like, yep, that's it. But like I said, I'm always one to try something at least once. And then if I don't like it from there, I don't have
Yeah,
it again.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Now, last but not least here, while my other foster dog tries to get my attention, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Ooh, the best advice for anybody that I would have getting into wrestling. Okay, I guess it's advice, but I guess it comes in two parts. Number one is always work hard. That's gonna be the biggest thing. Like, I mean, work hard at everything, whether it's your promos, your in-ring training, your out-ring training, like your weight training, all those things right there, and just try to be the best that you can be. But then the second piece of advice, or should I say the second half of this advice, is have a true north, which I would say means whoever you are in wrestling, or whoever you were before wrestling, whoever you are as a person, know that person, value that person. Like you have to have your values. You have to know who you are and what your values to stand by. And it's not to say that this is a negative business to do that. It's to say that like I've seen it on different spectrums where people will feel like they're not themselves and it will affect you in that way where that authenticity, whether it's coming up in the ring, whether it's just you like, kind of hanging out with your friends or so forth, it can definitely like play an impact. So have that true north and it will help you with your training because at the end of the day, if you say you value yourself as a hard worker, as an athlete, but your actions don't correlate with that, then you're going to feel like a fraud, and then
Mm,
that can actually kind of affect you. So I would say just kind of like focus on that part, the true north, in terms of like telling yourself my core beliefs that this is what I believe about myself,
yeah.
and these will never change. And then I think that will always guide your training, and also it will guide who you become as a character, and kind of guide how you manage your number in your relationships in wrestling, and also your relationships out of wrestling. Because especially when you get into this business and you get into it at a high level, it demands a lot of your time.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
It's just it's definitely a business that needs that time and attention to work. But if you don't have that true north, then it can be hard to kind of manage that time. So
Yeah.
always have that
I
true north, know exactly what you're trying to get out of this business, know who you are in this business, and know what you want to get out of this business. And I think you'll find a lot of success.
Oh, most definitely. Very great advice. Before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on the Ronin, they can go ahead and get them there.
So you can find me Instagram at the Ronin Jase Osei, also on Twitter at the Ronin Jase Osei, and then on Facebook as Jase Osei or the Ronin Jase Osei. And then from time to time, I get on Twitch. I play. I'm a big gamer, so like I'm playing right now. If you want to see me play Spider-Man or Ghost of Tsushima, you can follow me on at Twitch at the Ronin Jase Osei. Disclaimer. I do die a lot, so do not say I'm trash, otherwise like I will get mad.
I will get all that in the description. I not to go too much into, but I am a little bit of a gamer myself. Not as hard into it as I used to be, but the game I'm playing a lot right now is actually that new Mortal Kombat.
Oh, Mortal Kombat 1? Yeah.
I am literally one achievement away from 100%ing it. Like where you have those cameo fighters, you have to fully master 5 of them. I'm
Mhm.
on my last one, and I'm like 1.5 levels away from done.
All right. Now you're making me have to catch up. So I'm about to put Ghost of Tsushima on pause and actually gonna get Mortal Kombat 1 and start and start living it up now. I feel a little bit what's the word? I feel what's that word I'm looking for? I
Out of
feel
the loop, behind the times, something like
that,
that.
that part. What's it? Either way, I feel the challenge is accepted. So I need to go and get I need to get myself up there.
All right. Well, looks like these doggos are trying to get my attention. Probably got to go get them fed, and will get me fed too. So that is about all I have. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. Best of luck out there with everything with the new year, and you're welcome back anytime.
Hey, thank you for having me, and I'm gonna keep you. I'm gonna hold you to that. If I don't get invited back, I'm gonna come
Oh,
and find you. Okay.
you're we'll get you back on definitely. Have a good one.
You too.